Hello. Hi, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. I must say that this week, when I was sending some emails to people, I started to receive notification that people are on holidays. So we are approaching these summer months, uh, and happily, we still have some people who thought it would be a good idea to join us today. So I thank you so much for that. We are here today for another of my favorite webinars about the favorite topic of how we integrate our test management tools with all the big universe that is around Jira and Xray and snapshots. And this time around, we'll be digging deep into how Tosca automated systems, automated tests can be closely integrated, seamlessly integrated with Xray. The reason for that has been actually some of my customers recently has become big fans of Tosca. So I sense that it's a hot topic, quite strong automated test platform at the moment. So I think it's very interesting to see how Tosca can be integrated into the Atlassian toolchain, Xray, and all that. And for that purpose, I'm so happy to be joined today by Roman, who is an expert in Tosca, but more specifically, also expert in how to integrate Tosca into the Atlassian universe. So first, maybe I'll hand over to Roman. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm very glad you joined this webinar here. Although we have very, very hot temperatures in Vienna today, it's about 35 degrees.
Wow.
And yes, and this means the summer has really started. And now I want to introduce myself. Thank you, Rina, for the first words. I'm Roman, partner of Automatus, and I have a broad experience in SAP consulting and also in test management of SAP. I was in Tricentis one time. Tricentis is the vendor of Tosca, and now since over 6 years, I'm partner of Automatus, and we are a partner company in consulting and making strategies for our customers in integration of automated test cases, especially of Tosca test cases, but we are also partners of Xray. And out of this, we created a connector, and this connector will be a main part of our presentation today.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And it's also good that you mentioned your expertise and knowledge around SAP, because as we were preparing for this webinar, and demo is always a big part of the webinars that we are hosting, uh, Roman suggested to set up an environment where actually the system that is being tested is SAP. And I think it's a great part of the demo, just because SAP is bread and butter for so many of the large organizations that are interested in actually doing system tests properly. So yes, and why bother with Tosca and Xray integration? I just want to highlight it in a few sentences, because although Tosca is a great platform for automated tests, testers and automatic tests are never done in isolation. They are not an isolated endeavor, just the tester needing to test the system. It's all about giving visibility to the whole program about where the test management is, how many tests have we actually automated, how many of them have been executed, if we have regression tests, were they successful or not. And this visibility is important for people who do not live in Tosca. These people normally live in Jira and Xray. So testers can totally work in Tosca, live in their Tosca universe, but it's also important that visibility will be relayed to the bigger program so that program managers know where the progress is and can move forward. Another element that is pretty important is that in most cases, actually in all my customers, the Tosca automation is only part of a bigger world of tests. So Tosca tests replace manual tests, but typically they do not replace 100% of the manual tests. There are still tests that remain manually and are scripted within Xray and documented within Xray. And what you want, if you care about coverage, for example, you want to show coverage from all the types of tests in one place. You want to see in one place the coverage from your manual tests and from your automatic tests. Moreover, maybe not all your automation is done with Tosca. You may apply several systems of automatic tests, and all of them somehow need to be combined into one big coverage. And this is, again, where you want everything to go back into Xray, because Xray is the common source of truth. And from there, you can then generate your test reports and test coverage reports. And in an ideal world, these coverage reports will include all type of tests that you have, manual, Tosca, and any other way of testing. So if I will just quickly show, one second. It's very interesting. I run into, is that, yes, okay, sorry, I was here not sure about why the presentation is not seen. So here it is. If we have a whole automatic process where people are developing automatic tests and developing software, deploying it, then running the automatic tests, you end up with files that are basically the reports of automatic tests. It's not enough for them to stay on disk or in the log files or wherever you have the automatic tests report. You want it all to go into Jira, and within Jira, this is combined with your manual test and allows your product manager and test managers to report on everything together. The tools that we are going to show you today, or that we are going to use for the demos, are for the testing parts. As mentioned, it's Jira. On Jira, we use Xray for our test management. And Tosca is where we run the automatic tests. Automators are then adding the connector. So between Xray and Tosca, there's a connector that is provided by automators that allows for this integration. On the reporting side, we'll show test reports that are generated from all your testing efforts, and they are done in Confluence using snapshots of Jira data into Confluence. So Snapshots is an app for Confluence. It's an app that is created by us. So it's an app by Radby. And how does it look like? If I just show you the reporting, yes, assuming that one of the big purposes of doing all those efforts of reporting is to be able to create the test reports. Here is how test reports from all these collection of tools can eventually look like. We have this page in Confluence. You can put on it whatever verbal or text information you need to do in your reporting. And then there is this table, the table of tests. This is a table that is created by our snapshots and shows on the right side all the tests that we want to include in our report. And against each test, the documentation of the test runs. And here in this specific example, we show the most recent test run. I will just show you that this is all brought automatically from Jira. So just a first look on how the data looks like in Jira. This is an Xray test case in Jira that is implemented via Tosca. We have one test here, and it has been executed in Tosca. We'll see in a moment how it has been executed. There is a test run. If I open the test run here very, very quickly, it has passed, and there are some evidence for the fact that it has passed. So we have taken screenshots once Xray opens here or Jira. Something went wrong. Okay, I will not park on it. A simple refresh will bring everything here. And if you look, there is a comment here that was actually inserted by the whole automatic test. We'll see later how it happens. But as soon as the data is here, it can also be brought into the test report. So I actually think that Roman probably has a later execution, and I looked here on a later execution, the one that is reported here. The one that is reported here has failed, and there is a screenshot, and this was all brought into Confluence automatically by snapshots. Another quick example of how a snapshots report can look like. In this case, it's a full traceability report, because when we care about coverage, we don't only care about the tests and the test runs, we also want to link them up, for example, to the functional specifications. And in this example of a report, we have 3 levels. The functional specification is the left column. And for each functional specification, we show exactly which tests were implemented to cover this requirement, and what is the status of the test runs. And here again, we show both Tosca tests and manual tests. And this is the power of bringing everything to Xray. You can have in one report, one coverage report, all the different type of tests that you have in your systems. So whatever investment you did in tests, automatic tests or manual tests, you can use it to demonstrate your coverage. So handing over to Roman to tell us how the connector works.
Yes, thank you, Rina, for explaining. Now let's look at the process step by step, how this comes to Xray, and how we build up this comprehensive reporting in snapshots. First of all, let's talk about integration. Integration is a main keyword in our times. The companies are using different tools, and all companies wish the tools should work together in a very smooth way. And there are integrations between tools on a peer-to-peer base, but what we have seen at Automators is there is one big link missing. This is a comprehensive integration between ALM test management tools, manual testing tools like Xray, Jira, and others. There are also other possibilities which are mentioned on the left side. And there are a lot of test automation tools. The most used in SAP world is Xray and Tosca, but in open source world, there are also other tools available. And we created the connector to define a specific process to define the test cases in a manual testing tool, automate them, and then bring everything back, but in a very optimized way. And this optimized way is part of my demo, of my live demo, which I will show in the next half an hour. Let's mention just the SAP Cloud ALM integration. This means that the connector also is integrated into Cloud ALM. This is a successor of the SAP Solution Manager. And we have also a comprehensive cockpit, which allows us to steer all the processes. When we talk about the process, we create the automated tests in Xray, and I will show that step by step how we create a manual test which is to be automated in Tosca. Then we will automate it and we will link them together using the connector. And let's step to the demo system, to the presentation, and I can show you this step by step. First of all, you see on the left side a very simple dashboard. You can see inside Xray it's possible to create a dashboard individually within minutes, and this dashboard is showing on the left side some test cases. There are also some manual test cases which don't require automation, and we also have some test executions and a status here of the test cases. Now we want to start, and we want to create a completely new test case. And first of all, we call it test for webinar on 25 June. And this test case should get also a description, some notes, and so we create it first and then edit it. This test case should test a requirement which we link it first to. First of all, we search for a requirement what we have to test, and this can be found here. We take the DXT20. This is a requirement. We want to create a standard sales order in SAP. All who know SAP know this is a very, very common test case, and it's very descriptive. And we link this test case, and we want to create this test directly here in Tosca step by step. How should this work? Yes, we could surf in the internet, we could ask ChatGPT, or we could just have a prepared specification already. And so we choose a file which contains our step-by-step description of everything, and then we can upload this. It's very easy in Xray. We just have to map the fields. We have just action data, expected result, and if the file has the right structure, we can find our test steps here. This is a process where you have a lot of tools currently which will help you define these test cases. And when we look at the SAP test case here, it's first of all, we launch the SAP GUI, we enter order data, then we go to the next screen, then we save the order and check whether an order is saved. Of course, we expect this test case to run smoothly. And in case there is an error, we expect the system, after automation has been done, we expect the system to put these steps on error which really have failed, actually. Okay, after we have defined this test case, we want to have it in Tosca. We put the test type to Tosca, get a message which is to confirm. And then you can see on the right side some custom fields like automation ID and automation status. And in the status, we put it to begin automation. And this, together with the state ready, is our command that the connector knows, yes, I should automate this test case. No, there's no fully automated test case creation implemented yet. This is the future, but let's do it step by step as we do it in 2025. First of all, we start in the connector. a so-called sync. You can see four syncs: logical test case, concrete test case, execution, and result sync. And each of the syncs is bringing the test cases which are relevant to the other system. And so I start the first sync, and you can see that here in the log section there are some activities displayed. First of all, we see that the sync is starting in the background. It takes a bit time to make an update all in Tosca. Update all means that in Tosca the common repository is updated and brought to the right state. We have two test cases in Xray found. This is the first one, what is relevant, test for webinar on 25th Juni. And we have another one which also was created in Tosca, but let's ignore this. And you see that all test cases which are created in Xray will be brought to Tosca now. So I switch over to Tosca. And in Tosca, you have also to click Update All here. And in the Tosca Commander, we generally have set sections which are colors. The blue section is reserved for the test cases. Then we have modules. Modules are the technical information standing behind that. And here in the blue section, we are currently working on this test case. Let's have a look at this test, which we created in Xray. If we open everything, we can see everything what we entered in Xray was transported to Tosca. And this is our instruction set to do the automation here. Let's do automation. Since this webinar is not a Tosca webinar, we expect some knowledge about Tosca. So we do it a bit easier, and we step over step-by-step creation, and we take just one sample which is already prepared and copy the steps to the respective positions. So I have here some prepared steps, and we'll bring them here to our newly created test case. When we open this section and expand everything, we can see here you are first opening the SAP system, then we enter the order data, then we enter some data for the order, and after this we should accept a message of success. The standard order has been saved. Okay, looks fine now. Just one moment. Just one moment.
Sorry,
Yeah. After we created the test case, we put it to completed, check in everything, and after checking in, the test case is ready for synchronization back. I start this synchronization here. This is a so-called concrete test case sync, which syncs from Tosca to Xray. And after the synchronization has been done, we see that the first test case which we created now was updated. And if we go back to the dashboard, we can see the test case appears here, is in the status automated, and has an automation ID. Back to you, Rina.
thank you. Sorry for cutting you short there. It's actually back to me, but back to you also, because now after we have done the first step of basically defining a placeholder test in Xray, then reflecting it to Tosca, doing the whole implementation in Tosca, and reflecting that fact back into Xray, we are now having this new asset, this new automatic tests, and we want to include it in our runs. Over to you, Roman, on how to achieve that.
Yes, we will create a test run here in Xray, and automatically in the background, the test will be started in Tosca. I will show in the demo how it will be started manually, but it's also possible to define a test event and start it completely autonomous in the background. And after execution has been finished, we will catch the results and will bring everything to Xray. And here, let's use AI to make our work. What could happen here? We could have a test case that has passed. That's fine. Yeah, you don't have to think about it. But if you have failed test cases, there are two categories of the failed test cases. The first category is what happens very often. It's the gray section here. You have the so-called false positive test cases. That means your system did not work properly. There was a connection broken, or there was a test automation issue. There was a technical ID wrong, or whatever. And most of the failed test cases are these false positives. It's about 70%, according to my experience in many customer projects. And what you really need and what you want to find is the real bugs. And the real bugs should also automatically create a defect. And if you step back to the last slide, then we can see that the connector also is able to not only to push the results to Xray and put in comprehensive information about this automation status, it also sorts out the test cases which are the false positive and automatically creates defects for the ones which are relevant for that. Now I can show you this step by step.
So just one moment to clarify here. This AI evaluation of the errors and the triage basically is done by the connector itself. It's not something that is part of Tosca. It's not something that is part of Xray. It's part of your implementation for the connector. Is that correct?
Thanks, Rina, for clarification.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I will now go back to the demo. Yes.
Okay. Now let's execute this test case. We create a new test execution and call it, one moment, test execution for webinar. And we create that first. And after creation, we want to assign the test case and start it in Tosca. This works in that way that we just have to assign the test case. The tests will be added here by existing tests. It is the test for webinar, which we select here. And then the test case appears as to do. And we put the execution to in progress. And then the connector will be able to synchronize this to Tosca.
Yes, and the connector takes as many tests as you put in the execution. If you put 20 tests in the execution, he will take all of it.
Exactly. Yeah. For this webinar, we take only one.
Sure.
Okay, we found one new test execution, and now the execution was created in Tosca. How can we find it in Tosca? Again, we have an update all, and then we see the newly created test execution here. It's also possible to start it automatically using a test event here. So it's started in the background on a virtual machine, but to show the test case, I will check it out and start it manually here. Okay, let's run it. What you will see is a classical case of a technical error. Why? Because I made an error in this test case. Look here, transaction VA01X does not exist. If you look at the left bottom side of the screen, you can see this message. And this is something which is really uh, a big effort in analysis of the test cases. Look here. If you look at the log info in Tosca, you see could not find text box order type with the following properties. And then you have to open this and look here. Okay, what has happened here? If you look at the screen, it's clear. And so we want the connector to let this screen analyze together with this error message. And all you have to do is just check it in. And after checking in, we let the connector work. The connector is looking for new executions and will find this checked in execution list in Tosca, which contains our failed test case. And now it's about the connector to sort out the test cases which did not fail because of a business reason, but because of a different reason.
A bug in the test set, basically, or maybe a misconfiguration of the system or something.
Mm-hmm. I get a post error message, whatever that does mean. So, okay. Sometimes errors can appear, and I think we have to restore something. So the AI analysis did not work because obviously something in our used OpenAI OCR is not available currently or has a timeout. Okay, I will try to update this. There's a trick to restart everything. I reset this to default value, and by this I can force the connector to make the analysis again.
Okay, great.
Let's see, hopefully the OCR is now available. If not, then I cannot demonstrate this.
Okay, but we have it in our database not in our database in Xray. We have something that you executed earlier today, I think, or yesterday, so we can show it
Mhm.
there.
That's right. It's bad luck that exactly now the OCR
No,
is.
no, the demos are always prone to have something happen.
Yes, I think this is exactly what's today happening.
It's okay.
It's not okay. But okay.
we we are prepared with data from yesterday.
Yes, it's just the image that could not be analyzed now.
Okay. Hmm.
And let's see whether our newly created test execution has been updated. Yes, it
Yes,
has wrongly a
yes,
failed status. And
yes.
I would have shown that there's an error message on the screen, and the AI analyzes, if available, will display us this message also inside, and this would look in a way so that you see the message here available here, transaction, and maybe
So
example.
just to clarify, there is a screenshot that was generated by the test run, and the screenshot made its way all the way back to Xray and Jira, basically.
This is right.
Yes.
Let's step back to
Yes.
maybe something which we have done in the past. No, we have no sample for that. Okay,
Okay.
bad luck. Let's have a correction of the test case
Mm-hmm.
and make it run.
Yes.
Except we have maybe still a verification error of this test case. So I check out this test execution and the test for webinar. Okay, first of all, I want to correct this error. We called the wrong transaction, it was VA01X, and I corrected to VA01, and then the test case should run normally, except that we have one verification which fails, and this is a business-related failure. And then I will show that after we have a business-related failure, we will get an automated defect creation. Okay, we have checked in. We started again. I'll step back to the dashboard here. It thinks it's unchanged. I did check in. Ah, yes, I didn't execute. Of course, if you don't execute it, you won't get a new result. Okay, let's execute it. Okay, this is how an automated test case is running in Tosca. Tosca is very comprehensive tool when automating SAP, and most of the errors which happen here are related to either automation errors or to real business errors. And here we have real business errors, so the process went fine, but there was a verification inside which should be treated. So we check in the test case and let the connector do the work now. Now we found the new execution here. I think again, the image recognition will not work. 1 hour ago, it worked.
Yes, I believe you.
You're completely right. That's a webinar effect. Okay.
Here it is.
However, and regardless, even if we don't have the image recognition, we have an updated status.
Mm-hmm.
And since, as since the AI analysis is not working anymore, we also cannot show you the auto defect creation.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, but in normally we should get not only the test case in
Status.
in the right status and with the right information, but we should also get an automatically created defect here. Let's look at this test execution for webinar. Let's look at the status. Now I should explain which information is transported to Xray regardless of AI. This is everything what you need to know about this one. When was it started? By whom was it started? And you have an evidence, you have a name of the failed test step value, you have an information sent by Tosca in the log info, which explains what has happened here. So we can see verification has failed. Expected value was euro and actual value was US dollar. So this looks like a business related error. And so we have the first step green, the second step also green, which entered the data. The third step is red. And the fourth step, when we save the order, is green also. We can open the actual result and can look inside what has happened here in detail. And we can see each information, sorry, that is in Tosca. And all the information is brought to Jira. And here we can see that we expected the value US dollar and got euro. And this is the core element of our connector integration, so that we can view all the results in Xray. And now back to you, Rina, because you show how it can be brought also to Confluence and where we have a comprehensive overall reporting.
Okay, thank you, Roman. One second, let me organize my screens. So back to the process itself. Once the data, so the execution results are back into Xray, whenever the project requires reporting, so test reports or coverage reports, the only thing that we need to do is basically go into Confluence and trigger the refreshing of this report. So I will just show you how this is done. So we have this traceability report, which I showed you earlier. It's already configured with all the criteria that I'm interested in, but now there's few fresh tests. I'll just press the take new snapshot, and the data will be refreshed from Jira, brought into Confluence, and a new version of the report will be generated. I'll do that also for my other report. So I had one report that was the full traceability and another report that is just the test cases and their most recent test. They will run for a little, meaning typically it's quite quick, but with the whole recording that happens on my side, this may look slower. In the meantime, I'll just move into Edit to show you how this report is actually configured on the page. So this is the same Confluence page in Edit mode. It has basically one macro, which is the Jira snapshot macro. And inside this macro, I configured my traceability report. The configuration of traceability report does not require any scripting, any deep knowledge of JavaScript or what have you. The only thing that you really need to know here is JQL. And because the example I opened is the traceability report that have three levels. The first level is the function spec. It basically is triggered, the scope of the report is defined based on the JQL to retrieve all the functional specification types from our project. Then there's the second level, which is the second level of the hierarchy that is defined. So it takes the tests, and the last one defines the test runs. And here I have a set of filters for the test runs. So that also shows how deep the integration of snapshots is, not only with Jira, but also with Xray. We can go all the way and grab data directly from test runs, which is for those of you who are a little bit more into the details of how the structure works in Jira. Test runs are not actually Jira data. They are 100% test Xray data. So basically what Snapshot does, it opens two API channels, one with Jira and one with Xray, in order to get the data. And indeed, what we have here is the latest information. So the test that Roman executed just now was this one, DXT29, and the test run that was picked up for this is the one that was executed by him a few minutes ago during the demo. So once it opened, you'll see it's the one that that he just ran now with the recent information. So there were no defects there because they were not created. And then there is also the test report itself, which is, again, I refreshed it now. So we have the new snapshot with the timestamp of just a few moments ago. And we have the evidence. This is, again, the evidence that was put by Roman just now. It was brought in together with the whole big comment about the fact that the value was expected to be in euros, but in fact was in US dollars. And so this is an example of a whole cycle. So a full tour from defining a new test in Xray in order to cover a very specific functional specification, all the way back to having eventually test report done without effort. So you don't need to go into Excel, update your traceability report, and what have you. So yes, that is basically the whole demo and material that we wanted to share with you today. We will now take questions. Before we take questions, and I see there are a couple of questions at least there, or maybe, well, Saskia will tell me. I'll bring Saskia in, and she will help us field the questions. In the meantime, you can, as usual, contact myself, and you can also contact Roman. He will be very happy to answer any follow-up questions beyond the time of this webinar. And also, you may add questions to the LinkedIn feed. Both me and Roman will check out the LinkedIn feed later today and answer any comment or questions that will appear there. So, Saskia, do we have any questions from the audience?
So most of all are very much appraisal for example, what a great idea to create the connector that is.
Thanks,
so
Olga.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Olga.
I wanted to put that out just so you know what was happening in the chat. So there's obviously some appraisal for that. Another question from Olga, though, is if the connector is working automatically, will the synchronization be done automatically? Maybe you can speakly talk to that.
Yes, this is a good question. Yes, the connector can not only work automatically in a loop always, it can also be scheduled. And there's a cron scheduling mechanism inside, so you can maybe execute the connector each hour or on each Friday at 3 o'clock.
All right. Other than that, you've done an extensive presentation. There are no questions. You did not leave any questions.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I thank also Olga and the rest of the people who attended. And of course, thank you, Roman, for the detailed demo and not agreeing, but playing along with a very live demo. We always know that the live demos are not bulletproof. Um, and before I say goodbye to everybody here, I just want to mention we will be not giving webinars during the summer. Instead of that, there's actually going to be a pretty big endeavor from my side, meaning myself together with Saskia are working already for several weeks to prepare a summer series to help people who are considering moving their whole SDLC to Atlassian, especially with focus on requirements management, test management, and the release documentation. So if these are parts of your SDLC which are not already in Jira and you are contemplating and considering to move them into Atlassian, then watch out for our page. If you are following our page, you may get the invitation to watch this series already next week when we will start publishing it. But if you want to be sure you don't miss it, you can just leave a comment on LinkedIn and we will make sure that you get the right link once we publish it. Other than that, Saskia, you dropped out of the stage. I don't know why, but come and say goodbye. After having we had a run this year since January with quite many webinars once every month, and I feel that first I need to thank you for helping execute that and keeping all of us honest to this plan to have a webinar once a month, and and we are already starting in the pipeline to think what we will talk with you about once we are back from the summer holidays. Okay, so thank you
Maybe
all.
adding to the topic of putting your requests in the chat. If you have a topic that you have talked us or heard us talk about that we should revisit or that we should look at another angle, or we say, hey guys, are you also doing that? Do you also have ideas about that? Feel free to also put that in the chat, and then we can pick that up after our all well-deserved summer break.
Okay, thank you, Roman. Go and find an air condition, or maybe you have already one.
Yes, I just want to add, apologizes for not having our full demo working now, but if you're interested in a full demo with AI analysis, then contact me. We can make a demo for you, especially if you're interested in that. And next time, hopefully, the OpenAI will be available again.
Yes, I can say that I have seen Roman by now doing this for 6 or 7 times, also with real customers, and it's the first time that it doesn't work. So it
Yeah.
happens.
That's what I also thought. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
joining and have a good day.
You too.
Have a good
Bye.
day. Bye.